esile tahaksin tõsta.
I would also highlight one of the members of our workshop today, one of the member countries, Bulgaria, and also Latvia, where pay gaps are also smaller than the European average by a few percentage points. These countries have managed to reduce their pay gap year on year. However, sadly, the most negative example within the 27 is Estonia, where the pay gap is more than 30%. And this is one of the reasons why we were so interested in organizing the workshop today, to talk about how we can go on and how to improve the situation. And this brings me to my next point. I have to admit, very sadly, that my own country, Estonia, is really faring much worse than anybody else. The pay gap increases constantly. In 2001, the pay gap was 24%. In 2007, Eurostat refers back to 2007, which was an economic boom year. The pay gap was even bigger. What the statistics will be for 2009, we don't know yet, but we can predict them to be even worse. As I said, the pay gap today stands at 30% in Estonia. This is the average. It's true that in the public sector, the pay differences are smaller. It's 24%, but it is big nevertheless, which means that Estonian women earned on average last year 200 euros less than men. The average brutto income was almost 700 euros higher for men than for women. What has brought about this massive gap? One of the biggest or main reasons are the stereotypes in the Estonian society and the traditional ideas on the role of women. Social scientists and many foreign experts have said that Estonia is a society that still follows very traditional family values. We tend to respect the core family and gender segregated share of workload, and that means that women's possibilities to fulfill themselves are smaller than that for men. And that means also that women are underrepresented in areas such as business and policy, which means they have less chances than men to have a say in decision making in a society in general or in a business. And women are underrepresented on the levels where decisions are taken, either in business or in the society at large, and women are then more employed in education, trade, health, and processing industry sectors. Another reason for the huge pay gap is that women often have to reconcile work and family life, which means that certain concessions have to be made in women's expectations about a certain position. But I do consider it quite unbelievable that still in the 21st century, the main role of a woman is supposed to be a good housewife, and the term career woman is almost automatically equalized with that of a bad mother, at least in Estonia. The third reason for me is that in general the society constantly undervalues women's contribution on the work market. Usually women's qualification, their education, that is, and their experience is valued much less in monetary terms than that of men. However, it is often ignored that 59% of those who have a degree are women in the European Union. In Estonia, the percentage is 60%, and in further studies, even higher, in, for example, going for master's degree. And social studies in Estonia do show that in every profession, women earn less than men. When we look at separate professions, then women receive less pay, even if their other indicators, what I mean is education and experience and qualification is higher than that of men. So what could we do to improve the situation? What I find the biggest problem is that nobody finds themselves to be responsible. We have been trying to get over this issue for decades, but only a few countries, which I also highlighted in the beginning of my speech, have managed to really reduce the gender pay gap. I think that the European Union and the governments of the member states must understand that mainstreaming gender equality issues into all policy fields is highly necessary. We have to look at where we are targeting our policies. The fact that the pay gap is so rigid and so constant means that we need a more multifaceted policies. One of the solutions could perhaps be that pay would be made public within companies, for example. That would mean that the pay policies would be more transparent. Regularly, pay audits and pay statistics could make a good base for making comparisons within a country and the European Union. And of course, the stereotypical attitudes must change. And that would mean that women's contribution perhaps would be more valued in the future. And in conclusion, I'd like to highlight Article 23 of the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. This does talk about gender equality and highlights responsibility. The normative forms are there. It's now up to us to implement these rules. And the ever-increasing competitiveness in the world economy calls for a more flexible and mobile workforce. But this brings me back to women, because they are exactly the ones who can't be a flexible workforce, because they often have to choose between their children and their careers. I'm convinced, and I think that everybody else is as convinced as I, that equal opportunities for men and women should be the basis of any democratic society. And let me finish with the following. Women hold half of the potential of the human race, and the fact that they are underrepresented in decision-making is a loss for the society in general. Economically, it's irrational. I hope we will have a very fruitful workshop today. I wish you strength to keep talking about this, and I hope that one day we can really say that pay gaps between men and women are part of history.